Missed by some, loved by many, sought out by some, and as with anyone, affected everyone who ever spent more than a moment with him. Colton was born to Sherry and David Russell, June 30th, 1986, in Rock Springs, Wyoming, where David worked in the coal mine. Colton was a sweet little boy, a trait that would always stick with him no matter what else became of his life. His parents would divorce when he was young enough that he had nearly no memory of their family as a whole. But as with far too many families of the time, his memories were of parents in strife. Through this time, until his teen years, he always remained deeply loyal to both parents, something that is not always easy. During his adolescence years, and his sister Heather lived primarily with their mother, first in Rock Springs, then with their Richard grandparents in Worland. When Sherry went to university to get her degree, they moved with her to Billings. Upon her graduation, they would move with her to Spokane, where she married again and started the career she had been working towards. It was here that Colton would primarily live out his life. Throughout his adolescence and teen years, Colton would go to spend time with his father, David, on some weekends, holidays, and summers. And in his mid-teens, he went to live with David for a couple years. Colton's ideal for manhood was his father, maybe in part because of the aforementioned loyalty, but more probably because of the rebellious nature that he inherited from both his parents. Sadly, he never was able to find himself in their better qualities. Colton was a loner by nature, making it hard for him to find the true friends to confide in. Not unusual, but when combined with his lifestyle, not helpful either. In Colton's later teens and throughout his 20s, he would have a number of jobs, most of which were good jobs that he would enjoy. He would find them interesting for a time, but as will happen when young and starting an adult life, seasonal layoffs would come and go. But for Colton, it was more of a personal attack in his mind, and this would bring him back to an issue to cope that started before he became a teenager with marijuana and moved up incrementally until his death. Drug use, combined with his lack of commitment to another aspect of his life, would result in him digging himself into a pit he could see no way out of. Sadly, nothing seemed to inspire him nor motivate him to improve the life and lifestyle he chose. Not the love of a woman that waited for him for many years and gave him 3 of his 4 children. Not the 4 children whom he truly loved, but would not pursue being a part of their lives until he could get his life in order. Not any of his family that loved and supported him. His mother and his sister's family tried to include him in all aspects of their lives, and yet in the end he would find an excuse to miss out on much. Not even his relationship with God was enough to motivate him to live his life to his fullest. Colton did know God, and he did reaffirm his salvation on a number of occasions. But God does not force us to live our best life. He lets us live the life we choose, no matter how bad it is for us. Colton had many gifts and abilities. There are many things he was good at, and many things he enjoyed doing, but commitment wasn't one of them. He enjoyed working on cars, electronics, and even though he enjoyed the work and the feeling of achievement it brought, he couldn't seem to accept the times that any job might become a trudge of boredom and an effort to achieve that satisfaction. In the years that Colton had lived in Worland with his mother, sister, and grandparents, he became incredibly close to his grandfather, John, and had an incredible respect for him. And that is why he'll be laid next to him today. They loved fishing and camping together, and even though he was too young to be much help, the memories helping his grandfather around the properties were some of his fondest. Colton loved to spend time with his family, whether riding motorcycles and camping with David, fishing with Sherry or John, or spending the day with Heather's family. He always loved doing it, and it was one of the real joys he had in his life. Sadly, even though that wasn't enough for him to commit to the improvement of his own life. For much of the last decade of his life, he was in confinement of one type or another, during which time his grandmother, Jeanette, would write him weekly and minister to him both as a grandmother and as a woman of God. This was very important to him. After his last release, others praying for him was something he sought out regularly, even to the last. But again, sadly, he would rarely follow up with the necessary actions. For those last 4 years, his mother would call him both morning and night, no matter where she was or what she was doing, just to encourage him and check on him. And if she was home for more than just a few minutes, she would pick him up to go with her to shop or pay bills or just spend a few minutes doing anything just to be together. His sister's family continuously tried to include him in most of their life. Her children loved to spend time with Uncle Colton. He was always so much fun. We won't spend time here talking about the last 3 weeks of his life. Everyone here knows as much as needed already. We'll sum up this memory up with one sentence. It could have been so much more. If he had just chosen to make it so. Colton's wish was always to be buried at the foot of his grandpa's grave, who called him his buddy. Colton is survived by his mother, Sherry, with Harvey Delcamp of Spokane Valley, his father, David, his wife, Raylyn Russell of Rock Springs, Wyoming, his sister, Heather, Brandon Newbill, Spokane Valley, his brother, Clayton Russell, with his wife, Becca, and their new little son, Addison of Tennessee, his daughter, Morgan Marie Brownsville of La Crosse, Washington, his son, Weston William Russell, son, Julian Lawrence Russell, and daughter, Sophia Abriella Russell, all of Spokane Valley, Washington. One niece, Natalie Newbill, 2 nephews, Nolan and Nash Newbill of Spokane Valley, also including step-siblings and their families. Family relations, Aunt Bonnie, his Uncle David Franklin of Mexico, Aunt Diane and Todd McCaffrey of Orland, Uncle Brian Russell and Larry of Colorado, and Grandma Richard of Orland, Wyoming. Thank you guys.